If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. If you say you gon' do it, get it done. Save your stories, I ain't with the pump.
Hello, this is Jason E., and welcome to the Trading Ascension Podcast. It's 2022, Season 4. This show is for traders focused on creating abundance and achieving self-actualization, life, and trading growth. I deep dive into the personal and the spiritual growth journey towards consistent profitability. This podcast provides thought-provoking concepts, scientific and spiritual data, and always action steps to help you evolve as a human and as a professional trader. If no one's told you today, I believe in you. Yeah. In today's episode, I want to first welcome you back. I hope you had a wonderful He Has Risen holiday. Hope the week is going well so far. In today's episode, I want to talk about patience. So think right now, can you remember a situation where you got impatient and then soon after that, it kind of just played out okay? Maybe you jumped the gun a little bit. Think about how many times you could have just been a little more patient with a friend, with a family member, with a child. You know, I struggle with patience. I have that I want it now mindset sometimes. And the lack of patience, it can be a life issue, and it also can be a huge trading issue. The symptoms, meaning how impatience plays out in life, can be actions that hinder relationships, ruin opportunities. In trading, it can be an early entry, maybe an early exit. Overall, just not adhering to your principles or the rules you have for execution. It can come forth and manifest in different ways, but one thing for sure is it's going to result in losing money and the frustration and all the emotions that come with that. And the lack of patience is moving up on my focus list. You know, you often hear me talk about destroying one problem at a time. And it's getting up there. It's going to be in the scope site here pretty soon. So today I want to talk about the tools I plan on implementing, and I'll just kind of brainstorm this with you all. Some things that I've tried in the past because I have a very vivid memory around 2010 of dealing with patience. I'll talk about what my research has provided me over the years and what I'm going to do. And again, just kind of spitballing, but what I'm going to do to ensure that this is the last time that this is a major challenge for me. So if you're having struggles with patience or any of those actions that may be a result of patience, or maybe you'll hear an action today and be like, you know what? Maybe I am impatient. If any of that is you, this episode today is for you. So like we hate to drive through, let's get it in. So let's immediately, talk about some action steps. Action steps. The start is we have to accept the path that we're on. In trading, the path is accepting that losing trades happen from time to time. If you're a novice, maybe it's happening all the time. It's also accepting that not taking action is action in trading. It's okay to sit on your hands and wait for the right market conditions to play out. In life, the foundation is accepting ups and downs. Just like in trading, trusting the path that you're on will get you to where you want to be, and understanding you have a limited perspective on that path. And it's going to get you where you want to be, especially if you have a clear, concise goal. And if you've taken yourself through the scientific method approach to building faith, which we often talk about on this show, then you have a knowing that you're going to get where you want to be. But you understand when caught in the plight of an actor, it's hard to see the later scenes in the movie from that director perspective. When we don't accept the path, it pulls us away from the power that we have in the now, because we aggressively yearn for a future moment. This moment's not good enough. It takes us out of the now. We erroneously believe that the current moment isn't great, although it's the only time in which we can take action to ultimately change the future. It's a delusion and it's a problem. And it's a worldwide, or at least in the West, it's a huge problem. It's how our power is stolen from us by stealing our attention. We can start to take action out of impatience to get away from that moment, the now. And in trading, taking action just for the sake of taking action is detrimental. When my mind gets too wrapped up in the plans of the third quarter or next year or next week's trip, I know once I'm aware, I have to come back to the now, the power spot. When I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about some huge sports winners. And, most people on their list, they have Tiger Woods as the best golfer of all time. And mostly, not because of majors, but his dominance in tournaments. He really outshined the competition. However, Jack Nicklaus, I think they called him the Golden Bear. He won more majors. I think he won 18. So, I find it interesting on this conversation of patience that when we look at greats, and Jack Nicklaus in this case, at his best, he had 2 back-to-back 7 victory seasons, probably on top of the world. But in that same 2 years, 2 seasons, he played 43 tournaments. Now think about the patience that it must have took when he wasn't winning. 7 victories, 43 tournaments, and he's one of the all-time greats. And yeah, some of those situations, he got second place, third place. But look, in trading, there's no second place or third place. So we have to take patience more seriously. We have to accept that trading is a long-term game, just like the career of the Golden Bear. We have to accept that path. And, before I move on and we talk about the next foundation, I have to mention health as a solution. When we're tired, when we're hungry, when we're hangry, you're not going to make the best decisions. You have to know yourself and put yourself in a position of well-being and self-care. And there's a lot of times where we're giving more to things outside of ourselves and not giving ourselves enough. Now, then there's the other extreme. I know some people who only give to themselves. But, for those who tend to give a little bit more to their job or to their friends or to their family, those individuals, I want to remind you about self-care, putting you in a position to make better decisions, not to be impatient because of a lack. When we aren't full, we can't overflow. And I've spoke about this before, but it's important to mention here is that love comes from the overflowing of energy. When you love yourself, you overflow with this love and you're able to treat other humans, other beings, other animals, situations, circumstances with love. When you aren't overflowing with love, then everything becomes conditional. At its core, you're doing something expecting a result. And that was one of the first steps I took, was the unconditional love when I dealt with impatience the first time around. I was in traffic and I would let people over, but if they didn't wave, I was pissed. Like, I just let you over. You can't even wave me, in the rearview mirror. You can't stick your hand up out of the window. Take back my kindness. So we have to ensure that we are taking care of ourselves and that we're overflowing with this energy. And I'll tell a little bit more of that story because I think that's important, as what not to do when overcoming patience. So I was just at a place in my life where I had low tolerance for the humans I was around. I was short with people at work, my peers, the clients. I was working at admissions in a college at the time. And I had a crazy commute in which I was just plagued with road rage. And I decided, I can't live like this. The stress that it's putting on me is affecting me in all aspects of life. So I decided that I needed to pray for more patience. I had no idea how effective prayer worked. So like most unknowing people, I just asked for what I needed. Now, depending on your faith, when you just ask for what is needed, two things may happen, right? Maybe more, but two generally. One, you may expose the energetic lack, and then you're going to widen the gap, right? The situations where you're like, oh, I just needed some extra cash. Now I'm down even further. Or I just wanted my cough to go away, and now I got the flu. I'm bedridden. If you have strong faith, you may get on the path of the desire, but that path can be painful. And it's pretty much one and the same, because we're always on the path. And the goal that you have depends on where you're at in those two. And so let me explain. So every day I was asking for more patience. And can you guess what happened? Well, situations that called for patience became the norm. My focus on not having patience put me in these situations in which I either had to expose myself or grow into the new version of myself. I wasn't just given patience. But at that time, I didn't understand, scripture. All I knew was asking, it was given. But I didn't know how the scripture and how the world and how God truly works. I was at a surface level in understanding, so I received surface level results. Don't be like me. All of a sudden, more people started to get on my nerves, more traffic jams, more cats at the bar and the clubs wanting drama. And I realized something, and it was something that I had learned in the first self-help book I ever read in college. And it was The Seat of the Soul. I think Gary Zukav was the author. And he talked about the path of love and pain. And I was on the pain path. All of those situations that were there trying to force me to become a patient person. I was being molded and shaped and chiseled into my desired result. You see, when we don't hold the wish we desire in our minds, we get stuck on the path towards that wish. And a great way to tell the difference within our self-talk is taking that statement and writing it down, or just a mental exercise of, okay, I'm writing this down. In 1 year, I'm reading this. Is it true? So if I wrote down, I need patience, I want patience, a year later, and I read it, is it true? No, it's still a want. It's still a need. It's not true. I didn't bring that energy into the now. So when we don't hold the wish or the desire in our minds, we get stuck. Now, for some, that can be catastrophic and discouraging. It feels like their life is not going anywhere because they're not passing the tests that are coming on the path of pain. I was able, in this situation, to recognize these tests, and I was encouraged. And I said, every time I'm met with this adversity, I'm going to be even more patient. I'm going to strive for increasing patience. And something magical happened. The last time I was in my fresh new, I had this petticoat fur, and I was out with some friends, winter in the Mountain West. So the coat was hitting hard, and there was this drunk guy, and he was just belligerent, almost just evil. And he just wanted to fight everybody. And then he came up to me, and he wasn't even coherent, but he was like, just drunk talk, right? And I just kept backing him up, just light pushes on his chest. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to have to hurt this guy, but he's too belligerent for me to take off on him initially. So we're just going to see what happens. Just going to entertain this, see what happens. Backed him up a few times. He got tired of me not engaging him. Went on to some other people. Eventually, he's getting dragged out in a headlock by security. And then something crazy happened. About 5 or 6 people came up to me and said, I can't believe the patience you had with that guy. That was the most patience I've ever seen. And in my mind, I'm already over it. A little bit later, some people came up and bought a drink. Oh, man, you were so patient with that guy. And I was like, that's interesting. And then from that point on, the following years, people say, oh, you're so patient. And I started getting these compliments. And I said, you know what? I must have overcome that. I must have passed enough tests to build this quality within myself, even though I took the wrong path to get there. Because there's an easier way. And so let's talk about it, because I'm super excited to have a trading occurrence in which it's something I've already dealt with in some sense. So I feel like it coming around right now is more of an upper limit problem. You guys know about upper limit problems? Let me sidestep. So this is important. So at times we can reach a glass ceiling in which we have reached our full capacity of expression as we currently see ourselves, right? There's no more growth until we change who we are, until we are the change we want to see. And I think I'll do a show on that, but I suggest you read a book called The Big Leap by author Gay Hendricks. And the thing about that book is that it's going to expose that upper limit problem and how you may be able, to overcome that. Okay, so back on topic. So, we've mentioned a few things to get on the right path. First off, we need acceptance of the current path, and its ability to get us our desired results. We can't fight it. We have to go with it. And either way, it's like jumping in a raging river. We're going to be taken the way that life wants us. You can't fight life. All you can do is flow with it and make sure that you're working with it with the power of your spirit to get where you desired more than random places in life. Now, outside of self-care, which was the next thing we mentioned, sleep, rest, food, outside of that, it's important to go back to your discipline in trading. You need to re-examine your entry rules. When you're first starting, I always suggest that you have the rules posted. I used to laminate a sheet and I would check it off with a dry erase marker because I had little boxes there to make sure that my entries were accurate. So you may want to re-examine your entry rules. Maybe you don't trust them. So you get anxious and impatient and you start to get off the path. One thing the trading and poker mindset coach Jared Tindler said on the show was that all problems should be addressed as technical issues until you start winning, until you have this proven strategy, personally proven, not proven by where you got the strategy or your guru or anything. Another thing I've learned came from Dr. Bricker, and he's a PhD, and he talks about how we have to understand patience is a lack of self-control. And when we do like I did in that example, when we don't separate ourselves from the action, we become that action. So a lot of times with patience and other challenges, we're associated with them by saying things like, I'm impatient. And so he teaches once we have the awareness of that sentence, we need to upgrade it from the I am to where we're putting that in the after the most powerful words in the universe to I'm experiencing impatience. I'm noticing impatience. That is the awareness step that separates us from the story and places us in a place where we can actually make change. We get out of the actor and start to move more into the director and eventually, hopefully the writer, the screenwriter, the producer's seat. What's going to be a big part of my focus as I prioritize impatience this week and next week is reversing how I see my time in trading. Before, I always had this mindset that the time when I'm not trading is somewhat idle time. And early in the game, you have to be focused on the charts. You don't want to be multitasking. You don't want to be Discord chatting. You want to be focused on improving your craft. You want to have the focus, which is a key component to deliberate practice. And now I want to have the perspective of welcoming the time that I'm not in a trade. No longer will I be waiting for a setup or waiting for market conditions. And I'll get creative with this, and I'll keep you guys posted, but maybe I'll have, other goals of what I can learn as I look at the price action movement. Maybe I'll set an alarm and step away into another trading activity. I feel like I'm at a point where I could come back to the charts and get a good grasp of what's happening. When I first started, I come back to the charts. It took me 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to see truly. So a lot of times if I stepped away, bathroom or anything, I'd come back and be like, oh, there's a trade. And it really wasn't. So I'm now more acclimated. And this is what you have to do. You have to get that relationship with your pairs or your market so you're able to see things a lot quicker. So I may set an alarm, walk away, come back. No longer will I be waiting. Maybe, and I'm just throwing ideas out there, but overall, in time, we want to be relaxed outside of the trade because outside of trading is still work. It's still work for a trader. And so there's a place, an area of opportunity for me to do better. Because during that time between trades, examine yourself. What's your self-talk? Where's your focus? Do you have patience? Are you just anxiously waiting? When I played football, rarely did I sit on the bench, for an offensive series. The defense, we'd come off. We'd have a meet. We'd make adjustments. I talked to other players who things that we needed to correct. And then I'd go root for the offense. The time when we're not in a trade will be the time where, will be like the time when I wasn't on the field. But I'm still going to have that focus to be rooting for the price action, right? Until it's my time. And I'll keep you posted on the specific ways I implement this once I deep dive into it. But I hope these tips so far can help you get on the right path to overcoming patience. And we talked about a few, and I didn't write them down as I was talking about them, but number one, acceptance. Understand that if you have a goal, the path that you're on will get you to where you want to be. And if you don't trust that, you have to go back. You have to do some deliberate experiments to understand how life is created for you. You know, for some people, depending on what senses are stronger than others, they create different ways. Some people need to see things, so vision boards help them bring ideas into the third dimension. Other people need to hear things, right? So find out how life is manifested. Follow the thoughts into the physical realm. And yeah, it takes time, but isn't it worth it to understand how your life is created versus being a victim versus thinking things, happen haphazardly? When you have a true understanding and a faith in that understanding in the process that you've built to make your ideas come to reality, it's going to change everything. And so you have to accept the path and take those steps. And then you want to make sure that you have self-care, so you're just not making decisions from a tired mind. A lot of research on how people make decisions when they're tired. Also, a lot of research on how people make decisions when they're in a rush. Seen a lot of experiments and studies on bad decision making because people are rushing. Self-care, take care of yourself with doing that. Now, seeing how you are executing is the next thing I mentioned. So get back to discipline. Get back to discipline. And then understand that you are a trader even when you're not trading. And then the last thing is welcome breaks versus awaiting the time to trade. Find a way to be mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically productive in your trading business. Value the time between trades as just as important as taking the trade. Put them on the same level of importance. And that's another step to deal with impatience. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you soon.